Welcome to story time. Bear with me. I need to show you a really quick clip. I'm not going to torture you more than I have to. All right? So just watch this and then listen to the story. Afterwards, I will present receipts. Okay? So when I say goodbye, pay attention because the receipts are afterwards. Okay? Watch this.
Good evening, America. 11 months ago, I inherited a mess, and I'm fixing it. When I took office, inflation was the worst in 48 years, and some would say in the history of our country, which caused prices to be higher than ever before, making life unaffordable for...
Hey, everybody. It's bonus story time tonight. Get it. Twofer. I want to tell you about somebody I know. I'm not going to say who it is. But I know somebody in my life who tends to stretch the truth. Okay? So, basically, let me give you an example. There was a raccoon that came to the backyard and scared him. Okay, so pretty much you open the door, the raccoon was there, and went. Okay, so when I went to visit, he was like, oh my God, there was a raccoon. And it went. And I said, oh my goodness, what happened? He goes, I don't know. I just opened the door and he was like, and I said, wow, that's crazy. He was like, yeah. He was just like, he was yay big, like, sorry about the cameras, but yay big. And he was like, so I said, wow, what happened? And then he told me, right, it ran away or whatever it was that it happened. Then the next person came in and he told the same story. Okay? And then all of a sudden it was like, it was yay big. Like, you can't even see it. It was a yay big. Anyway. Then next thing you know, somebody else came in and it was like way bigger. Right? It was super big. I don't know how big raccoons get, but it was super big. All right? And then I'm sitting there thinking, this is bullshit. Right? I'm thinking, maybe you're stretching the truth a little bit. I loved him, so I was like, you know what, whatever. And it reminded me of Trump and the speech he gave last night. You ever had a grandparent or like somebody like older in your family that was kind of like losing touch with reality? And you were like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. And you look around your family and they're like, you're like, oh yeah, you're right about that. Wow, that's crazy that happened to you. And you gotta chalk it up to like Alzheimer's or sometimers, and you're like, whatever, that's just who he is, right? And then it makes sense later on. Like during Trump's speech last night. Lord. I remember in his first term, I would get a kick out of all that crap. I'd be like giggling and stuff. I was like, yeah, he's like a crazy grandpa, that just says all the same things every time you see him, or like just like exaggerates and things like that. But last night, no. No. Okay. So he started off talking about how he inherited a bad economy, the worst ever, right? And that he was fixing it. Okay. So you feel like you have to fact check this shit because you know what? Experience has told you. Verify. Okay? So I was like, Senor Googler or Google, tell me what's the truth. Senor AI, tell me what's the truth. So I started digging. And I think part of the problem that we have in this world is that nobody fact checks anything. A lot of those red hatters don't fact check anything. They just say, our dear leader said it, so it must be right. Okay? So he said, I inherited this bad economy. And in January 2025, the inflation rate was 3%, around 3%. And then he said, I'm making it better. And you know what? He somehow got away with it. You know, like, he somehow accomplished it. And today, well, not really today, November 2025, the inflation rate was 2.7. So it was like 0.3% less. Okay, after 11 months. And then he says, quick edit, y'all, sorry. And then he said that I believe when I took office, the inflation rate was the worst it's been in 48 years. All right, carry on, Diana. And then I said, Senor Google, Senor AI, what was the inflation rate in 1977? And you know what it told me? It said the inflation rate was 6.7%. And I believe that's worse than 2.7%. So that is a mentira, a lie. Okay? So then he says, I believe it was the worst economy in the history of all economies. Okay? In the history of our country, it is the worst. And then I said, Senor Google, what do you say? And they said, the worst history of inflation in the history of the United States was around 29%. I don't know about you, but I think that's worse than 3%, 2.7%, and 6.7%. I don't think you need a big IQ, okay? He's always talking about how people have low IQs, okay? I don't think it takes a big IQ to know that 29% is worse than 3%, than 2.7%, than 6.7%. Okay? So I'll give him credit for the 0.3%. I don't know how he got away with it because, you know what, the tariffs and all that crap, I don't know how that works. But he's in control now, so he hasn't, exactly been giving us all the numbers. But it is a lie. I don't know about you, but when somebody lies about something so small, it makes me doubt everything else. But his followers, because they love him so much, they look at him and they look at who's saying the opposite, and they say, I trust my guy. Okay? They trust everything he says. So, my main point is that I don't need to see the whole speech. If someone lies to you about something so small, then how can you trust anything else he says? How can you trust anything he's ever said? The Red Hatters should take that into consideration, because you know what? A lot of the decisions he's making right now is going to affect them. And guess what? I'm a small channel. I just started. And I'm sure eventually people are going to start giving me some hate. But you know what they're probably not going to be doing? Is fact checking me. So I dare you. Talk to Mr. Google. Talk to Mr. AI and ask him for the numbers. Okay? After that, you don't need to hear anything else. And you best believe I'm going to get into everything else at some point when I am emotionally stable. When I am feeling like I can deal with that crap. When I feel like I have enough time to fact check all that bull crap. But if you want to hear my conspiracy theory, because we all have them, right? I think he is not happy about the fact that the Epstein files come out tomorrow. And he wants to blur the lines. He wants to distract people from that. So he's just throwing numbers out there, trying to energize his base, to reinforce his brainwashing of them so that the backlash won't be so bad. And if you want to prove me wrong, go ahead. I dare you. Prove me wrong. Okay? Because the numbers don't lie. And I have a feeling that when you realize the truth, that you are going to be crushed. And then you will go back and back and back to the beginning of the fucking administration. And you are going to start digging. You are going to be the modern day Inspector Gadget. You are going to be going through all of the stuff. You are going to say, if I backed him up, I need to know if everything he said was true. You may not say it to anybody, but you will. Because you cannot help it. You have to know. And you can play it off any way you want to. You could deny it. But eventually, it's going to sink in. That he's a liar. And that a lot of what he says is not true. Not true at all. And then you are going to have an existential crisis because you put everything behind it. You are going to hit rewind on all of the things, all of the flags, all of the red flags that you saw glaring at you, and you were like, nah, I don't believe that. Nah, it's the deep state. Nah, it's the Democrats. Yeah. And you're going to be like, damn it. Now, the true test is going to be, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to just not vote and not care anymore? Or are you going to get the cojones, the testicular fortitude to do the right thing and speak out? I dare you. Because you know that's what's right. You know it. Think about it. God bless you. Bye.